Hi, aloha, and welcome to the Empowered Empath podcast. My name is Jennifer O'Neill.
And I'm Michelle Schneider. As a friendly reminder, if you like today's podcast, please give the video a like and make sure you are subscribed if you aren't already.
Yes, for sure. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, although I do not have my regular purchase copies in, they are available. I just don't have them yet. My Empowered Empath book is now out. This is a hardcover copy. But yes, it is out. And I think that for those of you struggling with energy or even the subject that we're going to be talking about today, this is a good place to start. Everybody's always like, where do I start? Well, that's a lot of info. So I had to put it in a book. So it's not like a step 1 through 5 type of situation. There's a lot of knowledge that needs to be gained when you're on a spiritually awakening journey. That doesn't really sound right. A spiritual awakening journey?
When you're
I don't know.
beginning or going through a spiritual awakening, and
Yes.
not just one book. You have another
No,
one
I
coming
have
out
book
too.
2 coming out in December, and I have another one coming out behind that. So they're going to be consistently going out. And this is why, because of the subject that we're talking about today, I see a lot of clients, and there's a lot of misconceptions based upon this linear thinking that we all have. That has to be readjusted in order to move forward in a way that leaves you feeling spiritually connected or understanding all the processes of all the things that everybody wants to know about. I mean, universal laws, manifestation, abundance, feeling happier, connecting in with your soul's purpose. There are a lot of positive aspects and goals that we want to move towards and achieve. But I'm noticing a pattern, which is we weren't taught about quantum physics growing up. This is not something that our brain has a lot of access to. And if you start researching quantum physics, a lot of people, their eyes will start glazing over the same way that mine do when you start telling me how to do technology things. I'm like, okay, yep, I'm out. I'm not even remotely interested in
Yeah, I
this.
know. As soon as I start saying certain words, I'm like, "There's no way you're gonna
Yeah,
follow
you've lost me. Just like I'm thinking of something entirely different at that point. So there needs to be a way that it's understandable how we connect the two together. How do we take this quantum physics scenario? How do we take this information and how do we utilize it in our everyday life? There has to be some type of click that happens. There needs to be some type of, oh, that makes sense. I'm understanding now. But I'm finding that that's hard when you don't have a background of knowledge. You don't have a good base of information to then make shifts and changes in your life to get you to the really cool places that you see in front of you that other people might be experiencing, or that you've read about, or that you just want to journey to because you don't like the space that you're in. And so you want to move towards soul's purpose and developing that aspect of your life. You want to move towards connecting with your spiritual body. You want to move towards abundance and a different way of thinking and a different way of living. And so there needs to be a basis there. And I feel like this is why I'm writing the books, is because I feel like this is important to have the base and then layer other things upon that. Because that seems to be the hiccup. That seems to be the disconnect when I work with clients and when I work with people, especially when it comes to the healing field. And when I mean healing field, because that can encompass an array of things, I mean when people are finding that they're having serious chronic issues, anxieties, depression, fibromyalgia, cancers, all kinds of different things, I'm finding that there's quite a disconnect between the information that they're consuming and having a good base knowledge to place that information upon, so that things start falling into place like a puzzle. And they're like, oh, yes, I see how this is connected to this, and this makes sense because of this. If you just start giving information based upon the soul chemistry and the body's chemistry and how they work together and how they alter each other's frequency, and by each other I mean just the different bodies, the different aspects, and how their conditions affect the other one. We need to have the full spectrum. We need to have a full picture, but we can layer information. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when we layer the information, then you have those aha moments and the oh, I get it, and that sort of thing. So I wanted to talk about a very complicated subject today that needs to be simplified a little bit more. I don't find information based upon the Akashic Records that I think is necessarily useful to people in their daily lives. However, understanding more about the Akashic Records is useful to your daily lives. I just haven't run across a lot of information that has tied the two together. So I wanted to talk a little bit more on why it's important and understanding that a little bit more in depth when it comes to your spirituality, any type of empath awakening, spiritual awakening, any type of spiritual journey. There's a basis of knowledge that you really should have when it comes to this area. Actually, when it also comes to being read by a psychic as well, or doing any type of mediumship or any of those things, it's a good subject to cover. So I wanted to talk about that. I'm noticing that when I'm dealing with clients that are in need of healing, one of the hardest things that they struggle with is this linear thinking. This everything kind of is a storyline that we're filling in all the story components, but in essence, they kind of fall back on, well, the Akashic Records has my story lined out for me, or, the way that it's going to unfold in this manner. There's a sense of not having any control. I think that when people think that way, there's a sense of being hopeless and feeling like that, well, things are already laid out or you're already heading down that path. And what's the alternative? Because you're deep in, and that path always leads to this destination. And these things are not accurate. And so I wanted to explain it from more of a spiritual standpoint, because I think that it can help you reframe your perspective and your belief system in a way that allows you to see and feel and connect with other possibilities and alternate realities when it comes to your own life. And so instead of feeling hopeless, you can feel hopeful by understanding more of somewhat what quantum physics is about and what creates our reality, but also what ties that into spirituality in essence, and our soul and our journey and our purpose. So let's talk about Akashic Records. Here's where I think that people get it wrong. I think that they get it wrong because they're under this assumption that there's just one line of a story that has every recording of everybody's life, moment to moment, second to second, all the way through. And that's the storyline they're going to follow. Now, I remember being a young psychic going, this makes zero sense. Because if that was true, where does free will come in? And free will is a major component when it comes to your storyline, your spiritual journey, your records. It plays a major role. And most good psychics should know this. If they don't tell you about it, then I guess I would question some things there. I always tell my clients there are some things that are going to be set in stone, marrying certain people, having children, those types of things, because you've made contracts with those people prior to being born. So we put those people in our lives for a reason, those children, those events, in a way that we must experience those things. That was part of our birth plan. That was part of why we're here. And there's reasons that we put those in place that you're not privy to because you did it before you were born. However, getting from point A to point B and having the way that you manage those experiences with the different people in your life, that's where free will becomes a factor. You get to choose how to deal with people a certain way. You get to choose an experience. I'm going to go this way or I'm going to go this way. Well, this event happened in my life, so I'm going to choose to respond this way or I'm going to choose to respond this way. You have free will. That's the whole point. That's where we learn, grow, develop, screw it up or do it wonderfully, or screw it up, then do it wonderfully because we screwed it up before. That's how we learn. That's the only way for spiritual growth to happen, is to allow us to fall down and scrape our knee and then allow that to lead us to a different route, because we know that one led us to falling down and scraping our knee. So it has to be set in place. And this does involve the Akashic Records in some aspect, but this is where I think that people get very confused.
Can I ask a question?
I would love if you asked a question.
Well, sometimes I don't want to stop your flow, but like,
No.
would the Akashic Records hold like every possibility? Like,
Yes.
not just like something that's set in stone, but like every possible choice that you can make
That's
in your choose
exactly
your
where
own
I'm
journey.
getting to.
Yes.
So, yes, they hold many possibilities. So that's where people get confused with the way that we've been taught to think, which is this very linear 3D thinking, and the way that things run in actuality as far as energies, the spiritual realm, your spiritual body, your purpose, all of these things, quantum physics, all of the universal laws, they do not operate the same way that most likely you formed your belief system upon. And so it's entirely different. There are many different dimensional realities. There are many different outcomes to those dimensional realities. And let's take being a psychic, for instance. When we read somebody based upon their energy at that moment in time, and I always tell people this is based upon where you're at currently. The cool thing about this is you can change how you get from point A to point B. This is where you have control. That's literally something I tell every single client. It's within my new client information. So there are ways to navigate things that are different than how you're doing things currently in your life. There are ways to shift and change that. You're not stuck in a scenario because you've made all these choices in the past and that's leading you down this road. So therefore, that's the path that you have to be on. No, you can switch lanes. You can take a U-turn. You can turn around. You can navigate in many different ways. You can get on the water and get in a boat for all I care. But there's all different kinds of ways that you can navigate your current situation. When people start to feel like that's not true because their past has led them to this point and therefore they're going to continue to head that direction, they feel stuck, frustrated, and truthfully, they're uneducated in the spirit realm, which is fair because that's why they come to people like myself, because they're trying to navigate a different scenario and trying to, ask, is this it? Is this all of it? Is this what's happening? I've made these choices and I'm heading this direction. No, that is not it. And that's not all of it. However, if you are with a good reader, they're going to tell you the choices you're making at this point in time and the energy of your frequency at this moment in time is going to head you in this direction. So that's your probable outcome. So if anybody is listening to this, they need to understand that when you're read by any type of psychic or medium or anything of that nature, they're reading a probable outcome for you based upon your energy and your frequency at that moment in time. It doesn't mean that it cannot be shifted and or changed. Absolutely doesn't mean that. A lot of psychics don't say that. I don't know why. Again, that's in my client information right off the bat to let people know. So why does that matter when it comes to Akashic Records? Because there are different dimensional realities that are recorded and are processed and basically out there based upon different choices that you make. So when you tune into your own Akashic Records or somebody tunes into those, I tell people, imagine it like a choose your own story. Those little storybooks that you had when you were younger, that you get to page 13 and you're like, okay, if you choose this, you go back to page 7. If you don't, you go to page 29. and you know, or if you choose something else, you go to page 29. Then you get to that story and you go, okay, then you get to a point in the story where it says, okay, if you make this choice, you go here. If you make this choice, you go here. This is very much the way the Akashic records are built. And I know this because I've been shown this. Because that I feel like is a question somebody out there is wondering right now, is how the heck would you know this, Jen? Like, seriously, why do you have this information? Because I've been shown it. And I've worked with Akashic Records for, oh, I don't know, 10, 15 years at least, where I've like really delved deep into how they work with our everyday life. It was of interest to me. Why should we know this? Why does it matter if I can tune into my record? Like, and then if you tune into your record, are you going to be disappointed? Or are you going to be like, oh, geez, well, that's it. That's the story. You know, like, I mean, you really should feel like if it was heading you down a path you didn't want, that should be the response. If you tuned into an Akashic Records, how does that make sense? It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense that you would just tune in to go, God, I guess this is life now. Well, this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. That's not,
There would be no point to life.
there would be no
Yeah.
point. So when I really took a long path of picking them apart and investigating them and learning about them, what happens in my world as a spiritual teacher and just as a curious person in the spiritual world, I am constantly asking my guides things and they are constantly showing me. So I work with these subjects and I investigate every nook and cranny that I can. And then I'm shown a lot of maps and pictures and formulas and things of that nature. And this is what has happened to me over the years with Akashic Records. I was shown many, many things. I was shown many formulas. I was shown many storylines. I was shown how those storylines intertwine with other storylines. I was shown all kinds of things. And now this has happened over, like I said, 10, 15 years of personal research just because I was interested in it for myself. I don't usually bring those storylines to the table in a podcast or a book if I have not kind of researched that to my satisfaction. And I feel like I have a very good understanding of what it is that I am teaching. So, this I do have a very good understanding, but I'm also noticing that that is interfering with people's ability to do many things. One of them is healing. Another aspect is shifting and changing their life. It doesn't always have to be healing. You can be a very healthy person where you're feeling frustrated or hopeless or depressed, um, things of that nature. That's where understanding that your journey is not set in stone. If you are struggling with depression or anxiety or things of that nature, that typically is a reflection of you moving very far away from your spiritual body and the essence of who you are. Again, because the information is not typically taught to us, our happiness comes from within. This is where other people's eyes might glaze over. Our happiness comes from within. And that feeling of excitement, of happiness, of joy is a response typically to experiences. It's not a response typically to buying a new shiny thing or a new car. And so we have this joy that is usually involved with an experience, an event, people, interactions, things of that nature. That's what activates the soul in a high frequency emotion. And we feel it within the body and it feels good and it feels just super pleasurable and addicting. And we try to recreate that. And when we try to recreate that in a 3D linear thinking brain, we tend to go to material things to recreate that feeling. And then we start moving further and further and further away because, in some aspects, that's achievable with a material item or something of that nature. The problem with that is it's very temporary because it's not a soul experience. It's not like a soul frequency situation. We're not heightening the frequency of the soul. We're just experiencing temporary happiness. And so when we move that direction, we get further and further away, but we see aspects of, oh, that made me happy. This made me happy. That was fun. That was exciting. When you have to use your soul as more of your guidance system and work more with actions and experiences and things of that nature, and really your creativity and soul fulfilling events, that's a lot harder for many people because we're a society of instant gratification. And so it takes time to have the longevity and to tune back into your soul and to discover what that means for you, because you've created this physical identity. And this physical identity comes with a lot of issues. It comes with traumas, it comes from experiences, it comes from all of this history that you've had being a human up until this point creates what's called a soul identity. We've talked about this on another podcast. And this soul identity, or this history map of all the experiences since you've been human, creates your frequency. And this frequency creates your belief system. So you start to believe that there's only one direction you're heading, or you start to believe that if you do this, then it's going to lead to that because that's what happened before. You start creating this belief system that tends to be negatively based, because trauma and negativity and things that are scary will imprint within your soul identity and your memory bank a lot longer and a lot more powerfully than positive experiences will. So now we're in a situation where we're recreating our history over and over again because we're living in the same frequency. And then that frequency is dictating that these things happen to us that happened in the past that we don't want to happen, but we're focusing on it so now they do happen again. And then you're like, yep, I knew it. And there's no other way around it. It's this really weird
Yeah.
chasing the tail type of thing. But there is a way around it. It's understanding that your human experience up until this point is just a series of memories. And the negative experiences stamped harder into your memory than the positive experiences have, because fear is huge. People do not like that feeling. They want to stay away from it. And so that stamps harder. Oh, don't do this again. That happened. That was horrible. It made me feel terrible. And so stamp, 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 stamp all over your spiritual identity, now creating your frequency, therefore your belief system. So you have to get out of the chasing the tail. And one way to get out of chasing the tail is understanding that your Akashic records are not set in stone based upon the memories and your human experiences that you've had so far. They're based upon many dimensional realities and potential outcomes that you can then navigate to and tap into and experience an entirely different reality. But in order to do so, there has to be some knowledge on your part that that does exist, and those are other probable outcomes that might be very positive. They're all probable realities that are out there, that are created, that are scenarioed into your life existence. And you can move along your Akashic records and move from one experience and one timeline, one area to another. You can navigate between those stories within your own Akashic record. All you have to do is have the belief and the knowledge and then implement change to do so. That was a lot. Do
It
you
was a
have
lot. I had a lot of visuals going on in my head because it just makes it feel like, let's say you were an explorer, right? And you could choose to go any direction that you wanted to go. Well, it just feels like all of those bad experiences are like guardrails that just keep you small, and like they keep you from like actually going out and exploring. Cause it's like I'm having all these like thoughts about, in some aspects of my life when it comes to like career, I'm like, yes, let's do it. Let's go try it. I don't have any fears about going out and like doing anything. But then when it comes to relationships, I'm like, ooh, look at all these bad experiences I've had.
Yes.
And like,
When it
I've
comes
been
to
in so
personal life
yeah,
or things of that
yeah.
nature, or it could be the opposite. Maybe in business, it scares the heck out of people, but they feel like they have their personal life down. It doesn't matter what area it is, but it is very important to pinpoint the area that you're feeling the most stuck and the most frustrated in, and the most fearful in what your future looks like in that area. And then it's being open to another possibility and understanding that there's another line within your Akashic record that shows another possibility. If you are not open to another possibility, you will not allow yourself to bump timelines. I'm calling them timelines, but they're all the same timeline. But you're not bumping your road over to experience something else, because if you are bumping a road over to experience something else, that's something you haven't experienced yet. And you have to be open to the probability and the possibility of experience something that you haven't experienced yet, not being afraid and fearful that your back pattern is going to repeat itself over and over again. Now we're dealing with an expected outcome. And if when you start dealing with an expected outcome, you start creating an expected outcome, so it continues to follow the same path. So you have to be very open to, well, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's got to be better than this.
We need a clean slate. Just
Yeah,
start
I
over.
don't know what's going to happen, but I need something different to happen in my life. And then you start making different choices. You start heading a different direction. You start changing your behavior. Then it comes to stripping yourself of your historic identity, in essence. And that's where we were talking about the spiritual identity part in the other podcast, which I'll try to link at the end of this one. But now, in order to move forward, it's incredibly important, I'm noticing, for those to make those leaps and to change their current belief system, to release themselves of their old identity that holds the history of their human experiences up until this point. People don't realize how much that they form their frequency and energetic identity based upon all the experiences they've had in their life. It creates them who they are. In essence, they know this. Everybody will say, yes, I am who I am because of the things that I've done and experienced. Well, that's fantastic if you like where you're at. If you don't like where you're at, let it go. Be rid of it already. Don't continue to decide that that's who you are. Change who you are. Change your choices. Change your destination. Change your knowledge base. Don't continue to recreate the same you just because there's quote unquote memories there. There's experiences that happened. Memories do not create your spiritual frequency. You do, based upon emotion, based upon your belief system, and based upon um, projecting your current reality and building upon that. But it's taking the now, which is stripped of any memory of the past, and it's creating from that space, which is what would be called kind of a neutral space. When we start being more conscientious of the now and the current time frame right now, we in essence do not allow memories to create our frequency. We're in the now. There's no, we if you're focused on the now, you can't focus on the future and the past. You only can focus on the now. That there's no way to move forward, there's no way to move back. And when you're focused on the now, that's you in pure spirit form. This is your pure spirit. This is your pure experience, because it's not tainted by hope of the future and not tainted by memories of the past. This is your current life experience. And this is why meditation and those things are very, very important, because when you focus on the now, you've stripped yourself of all the memories that define who you are and define your belief system. We're just being present. We're just being spiritual in a physical body. And we can create from that place very powerfully. And from that place, we can alter our reality by tuning into the Akashic Records and choosing differently. And to tell you the honest God truth, for those of you who are like, how the heck am I going to tune into the Akashic Records? I just started this journey and I'm just learning. I have no idea how to do that. You don't even have to consciously do it in that manner. All you have to do is go, let's start from today, who I am at this moment in time, and let's make different choices based upon today and how I feel today. And make sure that those choices are based upon feeling good or better or positive. Don't make reoccurring choices based on negativity or history. But again, if you start getting the history, you're not in the now.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of problems come in, is people want to define who they are based on memories. That's really all that your history is. It's a lot of memories. And I know that there's been research done on that. And you know what's very interesting is when they did studies on the history, like memories in your history, they only got it right 50% of the time. So half of the time, that memory you had wasn't even really the experience. It was tainted in some way by your emotional reaction, etc. So it's interesting that we don't even remember the past properly 50% of the time, or we get 50% of that memory right, and the other 50% is not right. So
But when you repeat it to yourself over and
over and
over and over
over,
again, you're
stamp, stamp,
creating it,
stamp.
like, as a truth that's
Yep.
shaping who you are, which is not true.
Imprint,
Yeah.
stamp, imprint, stamp. It starts to become your frequency and your identity. And that then projects the same scenario over and over again. So one of the things that I deal with people with chronic illnesses is they have to change who they are and how they're living their life. There's no exception to that. None, zero. It doesn't mean you have to, go to Peru or something and live a whole different, lifestyle as a monk. That absolutely doesn't mean that at all. It means that your current circumstance of how you live life, typically repetitive, um, it involves doing something different because what you've been doing created your body's frequency to be in this state that you're currently in. And that doesn't just apply to health, that applies to money, that applies to relationships, that applies to anything. It creates who you are, and then you do it over and over again. The other interesting thing is 90% of your day is a repeat, almost for everybody. For almost everybody, 90% of their day is a repeat of the day before. 90% of your day. So you do the same thing 90% of the time over and over and over and over again. And then you're like, why is my life still like this? Why is my money situation still like this? Why is my health still like this? Why do I feel the same? Why do I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel? Well, because you are. There's literally no other way to put it, but you are on this hamster wheel of memories and of systems that you've put in place doing the same thing over and over again. The only way to break that cycle is to understand that you do the same thing over and over again. Understand that your history should not hold as much weight as people allow it to in their life. That's really mind blowing to me. But the more that I do this, the more that people, they are defined by that. Their belief system's defined by that. Their experience today is defined by that. It's incredible how much weight that you give memories and experiences and memories of those experiences. Like, you give it all the power. It holds
Yeah.
everything for you. Like, you're like, here's my keys, here's my wallet, all my credit cards, go wild. Like, you just give it everything. And then you're just like, why am I broken? Where's my car? Like, I don't, it's weird. You just give it all the power. And then you go, how am I here? Well, you're here because you keep giving those memories all the power. So you have to understand that at some point in time, you have to let it go, because if you don't let it go, you create your reality today based upon those. And what that means is today is your yesterday. Today is your history. So your frequency is adjusted to those memories unless you let them go. When you start to go, you know what? I don't want to live in the past anymore. I don't want to live in that memory. I don't want to live in that experience. And you start to go, today's a new day. If you do nothing else, just get up every day and go, today's a new day. Read on my frequency today. Today I'm going to start fresh. And every day you do that, you're going to be light years ahead of where you were at this current moment in time, because you've probably done the same thing today 90% of your day. So you're going to be light years ahead by just going, today's a new day. And what do I want to do with my frequency today? What would I like to see be different? What different storyline in my Akashic records would I like to pull from?
Yeah.
And then you can daydream about it. You can just reach for it. You can go, I want to feel more freedom. I want to feel more love. I want to feel um, like I have more time. I want to feel that I can take a vacation. I want to feel more financially stable on my new Akashic record destiny timeline, so that I can feel more relaxed. I want to feel less stressed out. I want to feel less less obligated to all these responsibilities. I want to feel more in tune with my spiritual body, you know. These are the things that you reach for when you start your day today. I want to start today. And here's what I want that to look like. Here's where I want to base my frequency upon. I want to feel this. I want to tune into this aspect of my record. I want to make this switch. I want to have these new memories and create them. Start building them. Use your creativity. Start using your imagination. The thing that's been shut down for many years is non existent. Use that, non factual. Tap into that. That's where your heart center is, and that's where your soul's purpose lies. That's where you're connected into your spiritual aspect of who you are. Utilize that creative energy. Use that to direct your day. Use that to direct your tomorrow. But you cannot continue to do things the same way if you're not happy with where you're at today. If you're happy with where you're at today, you should have shut this podcast off a long time ago. Like, you should have just been out, dude, this isn't for me and I'm done, you know?
Well,
Like,
the thing that I think is the work, like, I wish everybody could just do this and really take it to heart, because it's like, I think often people don't make any changes until they're extremely sick, until they've gotten to the point where they're just, in a really bad place health-wise. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be so sick that you
well,
just
see, now I look at that differently. I think that that's the cool aspect of actually having a health issue in essence. I learned more about myself when I started getting heart palpitations, because I would know I was under so much stress. I learned more about myself when I had anxiety, because it was like, nope, you're heading the wrong direction. So that's how I learned that my mind or my ego was forcing me to do something that was more physically based and 3D related than I was tuning into my spiritual aspect of who I was, and letting my intuitive senses guide me. And also, shutting out, new car, big house type of thinking, and to, I just want to feel relaxed. I want to feel less stress. I want to travel. I want to experience things. I want to feel freedom. I want to feel love, and move that direction. And so every time I experience anything like the heart palpitations or whatever, I'm like, oh, ooh, I'm away from that. I need to move that direction. Oh, thank you. Very good info. So I
yeah.
look at it a little bit differently,
Well, I think your
because
body talks to you, and it's definitely gonna set off
absolutely.
alarm bells when things are not heading in the right direction. I think the problem is that a lot of people will just be like, "This is done to me. Like, I'm sick. My body is
Of
broken."
course they
And
are, and that's the reality that we've been taught, so it
yeah.
feels very much like that, but I go into a lot of that too, in the Empowered Empath book as well. But yes, that's fair, because that's what the knowledge that a lot of people have been given, so that's a fair place to gather knowledge from that standpoint. that's typically, I think, to your point, when people start searching for new information or searching for a deeper meaning or a deeper connection, and then they stumble upon universal laws and Akashic records and other ways of living, and then hopefully implement those into their lifestyle and make shifts and changes. The other interesting thing is, I cannot believe the amount of people that still do um, get sick and have issues and still head the same direction, even with a spiritual um, knowledge base. They're still moving in that same direction, just again doing the 90%. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And they just are really having a hard time grasping that they're repeating and repeating and repeating the same thing that got them into the same boat that they're in now. And like I said, I don't want it just to all be about health, because I feel that people do this with money flow or business or all of those things. But there are going to be things that you navigate easier than you do other things. So maybe some people might navigate the health aspect well and do things like I do. Oh, I feel it. This is a sign and signal, switch directions. And then maybe when it comes to business or money, they're like, gosh, that's such a struggle for me, though. Like that part I need to get down better. And so I think that you really need to understand either way. Let any memory go, release yourself from the confines of being strapped to that memory as your identity. Just because it's a memory doesn't mean that's your future. Doesn't mean that's your now. And in fact, I've taken a lot of people and I've had them, like when I've done readings or different things, and maybe let's take money for instance, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so stressed about money and I don't know how I'm going to pay this and do this." And I'll go, how's your money situation today? Well, actually, it's good. Did you pay everything you needed to? Yeah, I did. Okay, so like literally from this point, you feel like it's good just today. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty good. Okay, then what is the problem? Well, oh yeah, but then this could happen, then that could happen, and then I'm worried that this tax bill could come in and this unexpected thing. And it's just like, okay, yep, see, not now you've lost it again.
I
Because now
laugh
we're
because
going,
you've done this to me before.
oh yes, we have done this. Yeah, so you get it.
I
The
do.
we have to go back to just how is it today. Once you start projecting again, we've take grab the memory from the past, put it in the future, then we recreate, over and over again.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that. So, do you have any more questions?
I mean, we could probably this is probably such a deep topic. I don't even know where to go, but you know what? We should say if anybody does have questions that they should leave those in the comments because then
Yes.
we could explore them in a future podcast.
Yes, we can explore them. If you do have any questions, yeah, that's a good place to leave it. But and so hopefully I wanted to go anyways, but my 7-year-old grandson says that all the time. And now everybody laughs in my family when we say that, because if he never wanted to talk about something, he'd change the subject. Anyways, let's talk about something else. But, anyways, hopefully that you found that helpful. Like you said, we could go into this topic very deeply for a long time, but I do feel like people need to have a good understanding and grasp of what their identity is today and how that they have or you have most likely created your life based upon these memories, and that's how you define your purpose and your experience today and your current situation, that it's defined by your memories. So you have to learn to detach from those, just flat out. There's no other way around it. There has to be a detachment done. And by understanding it's memories that has created your current identity, keep the ones that feel good and get rid of the rest. But understanding you shouldn't give your memories that much control over your life and who you are.
That and
And
labels. I feel like
that
labels
and
is
labels,
another way
yes.
to say it too, because I feel like
Mhm.
people love to put labels on themselves, like I am this, I am that, and it's like
Right.
no, just you're not. You can get rid of all of those things. You don't
Yes,
have to do
exactly.
any one thing.
Well, that's how people see me. Well, they see you because that's the frequency you're projecting. So that can also be changed. That goes into a whole different topic of change the frequency. You might lose the friends and you might, there's a whole different topic. But just a reminder, I know I'm saying this a lot, but the empowered empath, I need to get the real one for sale so it doesn't say not for
I
sale.
should have brought mine. It's in the other room, but
Oh,
mine came in the mail. So
okay. So this is a good place to start restructuring your belief system and getting to move forward in a way that you're making shifts and changes instead of feeling stagnant. It's all about moving forward with shifts and changes. And in order to do that, there's knowledge that you need to accumulate and then steps that you need to follow. So I have been writing about that a lot lately. I will continue to write about that. If you want to make some shifts and changes, don't forget to pick that up. And you want to close us out?
yeah, just a friendly reminder to like today's video if you enjoyed the content and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't subscribed already.
Yes. All right. Until next time, have the most amazing day. Aloha.
Bye.
Bye.